Welcome to the Stuff About Money podcast. I am Eric, your co-host, and I will be joined by Dr. Matt Morris. You know me as a financial planner and Matt as a family therapist, but we're also entrepreneurs and business owners who face the pressure, the burnout, and the uncertainty that comes with chasing big goals. We work with high performers, executives, business owners, and professionals alike who are trying to succeed without losing their health, their relationships, or their sense of direction in the process. That kind of life takes intention, clear boundaries, and a mindset built for growth. In this series, we discuss the habits, the frameworks, the hard-won lessons that we've picked up along the way, and we continue to live out. Through candid conversations and practical tools, we'll tackle the real challenges driven people face when they want to grow without burning out. Let's rethink success together.
Eric, we're talking about the art of effective communication, and I have a confession to make to you. I'm not a great communicator. I have had problems in the past communicating well, particularly when I'm upset with somebody.
Okay.
I'm pretty good at it at my job. I'm pretty good at it when I'm cool, calm, and collected. But when I start to get emotional, I'm not great at it. Communication is key to effective leadership. We have got to be better communicators.
I think what you just explained there is that you are truly human, Matt. Because I would actually categorize you as one of the better communicators that I know. But emotions always get the best of us, right? And anytime, even in this whole series that we're talking about, emotions tend to get in the way of good decision making, good leadership, good communication. We as humans, we feel before we think, right? Any brain study will tell you that. Like you feel instantly, and it takes a little while for the cognitive part of your brain to start working. Okay, I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to talk about the brain because that's not my gig, but I do
Eric,
know.
the neuroscientist. All right.
I know, right? Right. I do know that emotions get in the way, so don't feel bad. But what you said, I think, is so key. To be effective leaders, if we want to be successful leading people, leading a business, leading a family, we have to continually grow in our ability to communicate. Now, here's what's key, and we're going to talk about this here. Communication isn't just me delivering information or instructions or conveying something to you. I think as a leader, communication is more about influencing outcomes, right? And if we just see communication as sharing words or knowledge or instructions, we have already failed as leaders.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I can just give you a quick anecdote. As a couples therapist, that's what I spend most of my time doing. Couples come into therapy all the time saying we have a communication problem, and they don't. They communicate very well, meaning they share information and receive information pretty well. What they're not great at, and what the frustration is they can't influence each other.
Oh, yeah.
They don't communicate well when they're very upset, like me. But ultimately, what they're frustrated with is we've talked about this, and neither of us is giving in to the other's perspective. We can't influence each other. And so, what you're saying, I think, is that the superpower for leaders regarding communication is the ability to convey big ideas and to move forward a group of people.
Yeah. So think about this in our own professions. You as a counselor, me as a financial planner, you can't just go share with people facts on how to have a better relationship.
Yeah.
I just can't share information with you on how to improve your finances and have better financial outcomes. Like I have to motivate and influence you to move,
Yes.
to actually be inspired to do something different. And that's the key of communication. I think we have such a narrow view of it. Most people do. We have a narrow view of what communication is because sometimes the best communicators are not necessarily the best speakers. They're not necessarily the best orators. I think that could be part of it, but at the end of the day, what's the outcome? Are we as leaders influencing outcome? Because our ability to communicate with our people who are following us, that we're responsible for. Again, if you have a family, you're a leader. If you have a business, you're a leader. If you're a manager, you're a leader. How do you motivate and influence these outcomes is tied to your ability to communicate.
I love that. I love that. As a good thought for me for the day is that communication in terms of leadership is about inspiring outcomes.
Hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes we get in our own way by over explaining, by providing too much information, by being unnecessarily vague. What's the word we've been working on this year?
I don't know.
Obfuscating.
Obfuscate. Obfuscate.
Obs- I can't even say it. Obfuscating.
Obfuscate.
Obfuscating.
Yeah. It's just like confusing for the sake of confusing, right?
Yeah, unnecessarily murky
Yeah.
in our communication style. Right. Leaders can do that. They can get in their own way. They can get in their own way by not recognizing what the moment calls for in terms of emotional intelligence.
Mm.
They're not reading the room well.
Yeah, like I told them what to do. I don't know why they're not doing it. Well, that's not they didn't need you to tell them what to do at that point, right? That's I think too part of what you talked about over explaining is if you're responsible for people, and I keep kind of bringing this back to the context of the workplace, just because that's naturally where my mind goes. If you over explain, think about the person you're speaking to. How do they hear it? Like, do you not trust me? Do do you not think I know how to do this? Like, you
Yeah.
hired me to do this job, so we got to be real careful in how we minimize maybe someone else's ability. And unknown, I mean, not intentional. Like we might not have any malintent in our heart, but we don't allow people to do what they're here to do. Oftentimes, if we try to over explain, and also sometimes over explaining gives too much instruction, and it sets someone up for failure, and it doesn't allow them to tap their own creativity.
Right. Yeah, it's a kind of pre-micromanaging.
Yeah, so I guess this is part of communicating. When we hire people, we tell them in the hiring process, like we don't micromanage. We hire people who have initiative. Like, I want you to think on your own. That's part of the communication process. And I'm not going to give you too much. So that's another part of I guess the other side of the coin is if you don't give enough information, then someone doesn't know what your expectation is. And
Yeah.
expectations, I imagine you deal with all this all the time. Expectations lead to a lot of broken feelings and
Yeah.
broken relationships.
Yeah.
So there's this balance of communicating enough words, instructions.
Yeah. I'm also a professor, and I have certain assignments where I spell out exactly, I want you to do this.
Hmm.
And there's a whole group of students that just want to be told exactly what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And then I have another kind of assignment that is like, choose your own adventure, do whatever you want. And that freaks out students. They want to get it right. They want to get a good grade. They want to pass the assignment, and they just want some parameters. And so I'm often sort of chuckling to myself, at noticing which student is in
Hmm.
which kind of camp and what that's about, but also B, like, what's the right amount of information that I need to give to a student that sets them on a course, but unlocks their creativity so that they can do something interesting and meaningful for them.
Yeah. So I think part of the intentionality of communication is you as a leader understanding where you're trying to lead people,
Yeah.
right? So like you giving a lot of instruction actually may be really important at some parts of the journey, and you giving
Yes.
less instruction is really important at other parts of the journey.
Right.
And you as a leader recognizing, right, where you are in that process and understanding what people need to hear or see or feel.
In addition to that, another um, aspect of good leadership communication is transparency,
Mm.
is vulnerability, is the ability to communicate in a way that connects, in a way that feels authentic, and in a way that creates trust.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
art and leader is supposed to be strong and decisive, and this idea of being vulnerable is kind of scary, man. Come on.
Sure.
It's
Right. And
soft. That sounds soft to me, Matt.
yeah. And the kind of vulnerability that I think we're talking about here is not necessarily like, here are my deepest fears kind of vulnerability, or, I didn't sleep last night because I was worried about losing the company or something like that. Not that level of
I don't think I
vulnerability,
can
but
pay you this Friday.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. But the kind of vulnerability that is able to say sometimes, I don't know yet what to do about that. I haven't figured that out yet.
So to me, that type of transparency and that type of vulnerability is actually endearing.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me actually to identify more with that individual, and it actually inspires me to follow them even more.
Yeah, I was took the risk. You didn't know I was going to do this, but shared with you at the beginning of this conversation that I'm not the greatest communicator, particularly when I get irritated or upset.
Hmm.
How do you feel toward me?
I would still follow you, Matt.
Okay. All right. All right. So it's the
I would probably, knowing you as long as I've known you, um, I probably would give you a really hard time about how bad your soccer team's doing right now, and confuse you from the severity of whatever you're mad about, and then you'll forget about it, and then we're we're on to talking about other things.
I see. Yeah, you would employ a set of strategies to help me feel better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I know you, right?
It's
And I
indeed,
think that's
but
important.
it's the
Part of effective communication is knowing who you're leading.
yeah, right. But the point about this vulnerability and transparency is it is endearing enough. It's the right kind of vulnerability.
It kind of reminds me of this idea of like, uh, and I don't know why my mind went to this, but courage. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage is just means in the face of fear, you're still bold,
Yeah.
right? And vulnerability so courage is part of courage is recognizing that I'm vulnerable and afraid,
Yeah.
and I don't know the outcome, but I'm doing it anyway.
I'm scared, but let's go.
And I think that's part of that vulnerability that you're talking, the transparency. Man, no one wants to follow someone who they have no idea where they're going to go next. Like I want to have an idea of where you're leading me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be taken by surprise and not, and the worst, I mean, we've all been around these people who you just don't know what's going to come out their mouth next, and you don't know, should I be afraid? Do I need to walk around eggshells on these people? There's a sense of unsafety. In fact, I just led a discussion with about 20 entrepreneurs on building company culture. And the number one thing that creates good culture, or employee satisfaction, is what they called psychological safety,
Hmm. Hmm.
is employees' ability to take risks and be wrong and know
Yeah.
that they're going to be okay and still valued in that organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say what I need to say in this meeting and it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
I can, uh, I can bring up this topic and it's going to be okay.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of authenticity, that kind of transparency creates trust, that creates this kind of psychological safety that breeds a sense of that inspires us, we an ability to move forward together as a group.
Hmm.
And that's the communication that the leadership and the leaders are trying to promote.
Yeah, and understand this. In again, going back to the workplace, you communicate with your words. You communicate with the culture that you create, or the culture that you don't create, that just kind of becomes a life of its own because you're not intentionally creating it. You communicate through the processes that you put in place.
Yeah.
You communicate with. There's a lot of different forms of communication. It's not just words, right?
Right, right. we let's come back to that. Let's put a pin in that and come back
Oh,
to it.
I'm always trying to pull you. I'm always trying to drag you along, huh?
You're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
you're welcome.
Thanks for
Um,
leading me.
Leaders often have to communicate things that are not easy to communicate. One is about what are we doing? What's our vision? What's
Mm.
our mission? What are our values? How have you been able to align your people with what you're trying to do as an organization?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think there's an element of, as a leader, you need clarity first before you can communicate to your people. You need to understand what you're trying to accomplish, what your mandate is, so to speak. And I think that's really important. One of the things that I always try to do, even when I work with clients when we're making financial decisions, is I want to distill what I in the financial planning relationship, what I call a statement of financial purpose. Like, why does this even matter to you? Why does money matter to you? Why is it important?
Yeah.
So in this context is, what are we trying to accomplish here? What's important? I think that when you talk about vision and mission, sometimes we confuse that with goals and objectives. The vision and the mission is like the horizon. Like, I never get there, but that's the direction I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay. And that has to be inspirational. It has to be in alignment with what's important to people. Because if there's a culture clash, if there's a value clash, if I value um, loyalty and you just value money, and that could be problematic at some point as we're trying to get to this bigger goal,
Hmm.
right? You can value both at the same time. But I think what the point here is having a good grasp as a leader where you're taking people.
Yeah.
Like, has to be first and foremost the thing that you do. You got to be clear in your own mind what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Right. That's a big part of it is that communication for leaders often just starts with in their own mind in their own notebooks. What am I wanting to communicate over and over and over again? And when it
Hmm.
comes to like the vision, the values, the purpose of the organization, it seems really important for that leader to remind themselves, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then to be able to communicate that well to the people.
Yeah. So I just pulled it up here because you asked the question. We actually went through a pretty deep exercise recently with our staff, and I wanted to clarify that mission and vision statement, right? And so I'll read the mission statement because it's shorter than the vision statement, but to help individuals, families, and professionals make wise decisions with their money, fostering confidence and aligning their financial choices with their values and long-term goals. So I share this with my staff, and like,
Yeah.
this is what we're out to do. We're set out to do this, right? And you can nuance every little statement of what that means and what is a wise decision, and
Yeah.
you could tease that out, but clarity.
Second confession.
Uh-oh.
When I walk into a meeting and they say we need to redo our mission statement, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
But it usually is useful to
Yeah.
remind for that group of people at this time to remind ourselves, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Why is it
Yeah.
important? And generally speaking, going through that process inspires people, refocuses people around what are we doing. So there's a really important communication aspect for leaders around our vision and mission.
Yeah. So remember, we're talking about inspiring outcomes, right? That's part of the point of communication. So whoever's leading your mission and vision statements, their job, it's a hard one. They need to inspire an outcome, and the outcome is a unified kind of, we're all rowing in the same direction, right? Because
Yeah,
this is what we're all out to do, from the person cleaning the floors to the person managing the money to the person teaching the courses. Like, ultimately, this is what we're trying to do as an organization.
right.
So that's
Another important communication that leaders often have to have are related to difficult conversations.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
we got to cut back. I got to give you some critical feedback, a tough
yeah,
negotiation, some kind of conflict in the workplace, navigating those difficult conversations are also part of leadership and challenging for leaders.
Yeah, here's my confession. I generally don't like conflict.
Yeah.
I try to avoid it at all costs. But I recognize that sometimes you need to
But you can't
enter.
avoid it at all
You
costs.
have to you have to enter into the conflict to bring some resolution. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you get toxic environments, and no one wants to spend the majority. Like think about this: the majority of their waking hours in a toxic environment, because that's what
Right.
work is. Like so, sometimes you as a leader have to jump in and communicate in tough situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are there, there's no recipe to make this super easy, but addressing it head on,
Yeah.
delicately, knowing the person that you're speaking to, not embarrassing them, not shaming them, generally doing this in private, getting right to it is part of it, letting them know that it's coming, um, letting them know that sometimes begin with the end before telling them the problem, like, hey, we're gonna be okay, you're gonna be fine, but I got to address this with you. Those are all some strategies, but leaders have to work on getting better at difficult topics of communication.
How do we get better at that? You're the right. I mean, your entire work life is difficult situations and difficult
Yeah,
conversations, right? Or am I pulling you along again? Am I jumping ahead too much here?
it's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. I'll jump in on this one. Um, your question specifically is, how do we get better at difficult conversations?
Yeah, that's something
Yeah,
that we as leaders have to communicate difficult things and enter in difficult, conversations. How do we get
yeah,
better at it?
yeah. First of all, I would map this out and break this down. Like, what are the parts of the conversation that are hard for me? What are the parts of the conversations? What are the parts that are hard for me? And then I would build some support in around those particular parts. If it's just practice, if it's coaching, if it's role playing, let's work on it enough. Let's develop maybe a script for you for that part of the conversation so that you can get through that piece of it easier.
Hmm.
Um, we can talk through some contingencies. So if we talk through contingencies, like what if this happens? What if that happens? We can alleviate some of the anxiety going into it. Um, we can strategize maybe some supports that make it a little easier for you. Like maybe it's easier over Zoom than it is in person, or maybe it's easier with a few people there than just by yourself, or maybe it's better in the morning than at the last thing of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, getting it over with.
I would map this dialogue out essentially and break it into parts and figure out with you what's the hard part for you. Like, what about, Erik, for you, what is, when you say communication is hard, I mean, conflict is hard, and I typically avoid conflict. I would want to break down what's hard. Is it hard in fact, like when you do it, it's hard for you,
No,
or
you
is
know
it
what the hardest part
hard
is? You know what the hardest part
cognitive?
is?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually starting the
And
conversation,
or is it
initiating.
anticipatory? Is it
Well,
like thinking about it in advance?
well,
This is
it's
going to
it's
be bad.
it's you got to start the conversation, right? You talk about like
Yeah,
you have to have a hard conversation. You have to communicate something difficult,
yeah,
and you procrastinate and you delay. Don't know why, because you think it's I don't know, it's going to get better. I don't know. You think it's going to resolve in your mind, but it's the actual. Let's just get it done with. Like this is going to happen. I have to have this conversation.
yeah,
Um, I've actually I forget the exact thing, but I remember calling you once like, "Hey, I have to have this conversation with someone." I'm just telling you so that like I know that like I have to face you, and if I don't have the conversation after telling you I have to have the conversation, then
yeah.
there's a little bit of like,
Accountability.
yeah, lose a little, little face in front of you. It's shameful. So it's for me, it's just starting the conversation is the challenge. But this kind of goes back to your question to me about, communicating, how do you align your team with purpose? When you have good purpose as an organization, as a family, as a couple, I imagine, uh,
Mhm.
you know, me with working with a financial planning client, when you have good purpose, that becomes almost like the thing you can come back to. Like, hey, is this still important? Do we as an organization still value our team? One of our core values is to build a team environment. So I can come back in and say, hey, let's say there's conflict. Hey, do we still value building a team environment? Right. The reason it's important that we have a team environment is because we all make more money at the end of the day. We serve our clients better and we all make more money. Is that still important to us?
Yeah.
Right. So what it does is there's something objective that you can kind of rally behind, that you
Yeah.
can start to align people to, and um, at some point you those values, those purpose, those visions, those statements, as nauseating as they can be sometimes, creating them, they become kind of like these points of rallying
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, I loved your word, the horizon. They become the thing that we're walking together toward. And
Yeah.
and is this thing we're doing, is this problem, is this conflict getting us closer to that or not? Is dealing with it directly going to get us closer to it or not? Yeah, I love that. Leaders in communicating also need to be good listeners.
Mm. Hmm.
There's a balance between listening and speaking.
Yeah. You know what made me a better listener?
What's that?
24 years of marriage. It's taken a long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You, huh? For all of you thinking about getting married, try to become a good listener earlier than both of us 20 something years into it. Yeah.
You can't even
It's
remember,
hard.
can you? Yeah.
I can remember. Yeah.
So listening, and correct me if I'm wrong. The reason listening is so important, and we can talk about active listening and all the different things, how to become a better active listener. But the reason listening is so important because you're communicating, right? By listening, I'm communicating to you that your voice is important, that your concerns are important.
Yes.
Is that why listening is so important?
That's one reason it's so important for sure. It
I mean, the
communicates.
other reason is like I need to hear what you're saying to know what the problem is to solve it, right?
Right.
Like there's like,
Yeah. So, I mean, the more direct benefit of listening is to understand you, but the more like subtext importance of listening is it communicates you're worthy of listening to.
yeah. Well, if
You're
the
valuable.
if it's to listen to you, to understand you, that communicates you're worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen these videos lately of this celebrity that you would know if I mentioned. But if people like running into this person on the street and the celebrity doesn't know this person from anybody, but you know how we are with celebrities. We think we know them, but they don't know us. But each time in each video, the celebrity stops and just listens to them, just talks to them, shakes their hand, introduces themselves, takes a picture, but it communicates that I value you. And
Hmm.
so that's an important aspect of listening. Uh,
So
Another aspect of listening is to understand, and I want to signpost that part.
yeah, and actually I was going to go there. So is there a direct line between listening and empathy?
Yes, yeah, I think we could make a direct line there. For instance, empathy is a desirable outcome of communication. I want to feel. I want to be more in touch with how you feel about that thing,
Hmm.
and I can't feel or I can't get in touch with how you feel about that thing until I really listen thoroughly to you.
Okay.
And let me just here's an insight that I have from 20 years of couples therapy is we're not always great at the speaker is not always great at speaking well what they're thinking or feeling or wanting or needing. Whatever they often what they say first is not the whole thing.
Mm. Okay.
It's almost like we're the speaker is creating a rough draft while they're talking.
Yeah.
And so they need a few drafts to really get down to what it is that they're wanting. So for the listener, you've got to be patient and curious to really get down to what are they saying? And often what they're saying first is not what they mean totally. I was in a board meeting yesterday and somebody was speaking about a point, and then another person jumped in and countered the point. And then the first person jumped back in and said, well, that's not really what I was saying. And so pretty soon there was dialogue going on, but it wasn't conversation. It wasn't communication. They were talking about two different things, actually.
Mm. Did you
They,
did you enter it and bring some resolution to it?
no,
No.
but if I did, I would have said, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying because I'm not sure I fully understand what you're saying yet.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know that I fully get what you're saying.
so you said a really important word, and actually I wasn't thinking about it in the context of this conversation, but um, but I think it's so important is curiosity. I think part of good
Yeah.
communication is being curious, right? Because curiosity leads to more understanding. And when we're curious, we tend basically what we're doing when we're curious is we're putting aside what we know or what we think already to gather more input that
Yes.
might shape a little bit more what we think already.
Yeah.
So that could influence how we communicate back or how we instruct or how we direct.
Yeah. Yeah. Curious is an open-minded stance.
Mm,
And and the opposite of that, or your curiosity starts to close when you think, oh, I know what they're saying. I know what they mean. I
yeah.
know what they're saying. I know what they need. And so now you start to form your own response. Curiosity has just closed down, and you're no longer really hearing yet. No longer hearing what they're really saying. If leaders ever wanted to get a forearm tattoo, right here, it should say "Be curious."
Or stay curious.
Stay
Be
curious. Be
curious.
curious. It is
Huh.
a hallmark of being a good human, but also a good listener and a good leader.
So as part of is part of good communication, asking good questions, like growing in your ability to ask good questions. Is that part of it?
Yeah, yeah, but yes, for sure. I think though that you don't have to get too hung up on that. I mean, life is often not an interview. Not everybody wants to be interviewed all the time. Um,
That's good.
I think that you can you can ask a question in a way that communicates to the speaker, hey, if I don't have this right, correct me and answer a different question.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important like meta skill is um, that your question doesn't demand an answer to it. It can be edited
Mm.
and something else can be answered. Let me just give you an example from couples therapy.
First of all, meta skill. I think that might be the first time that word has been used on the podcast. Meta skill. Okay.
Meta skill, yeah,
Like a small skill.
like the skill around the
like
main
like
skill.
it's kind of like running.
The
Yeah.
main skill is asking good questions,
Yeah.
but the meta skill is asking it in such a way that if it's not quite the right question,
Mm.
the
Okay.
speaker knows they can go, well, it's not quite that, it's this.
Okay. So
It's
your
not a
example.
demanding
Yeah.
way. Um, in couples therapy, as I mentioned earlier, couples often come in complaining that they don't communicate well. And one aspect of that is that they'll say, they always interrupt me when I'm talking. Now, when I'm sitting there with these people talking, I am frequently interrupting them. Okay.
Okay.
Frequently, sometimes with questions, sometimes with statements, frequently interrupting all the time. It's happening all the time. Like if I had a little clicker just tracking my interruptions of them, it's happening frequently all the time. But for some reason, it doesn't annoy them in the same way it does when their partner does it.
Hmm.
I'm doing something that is the same thing their partner's doing, but it has a different effect. And I think the secret here is that I'm listening in such a way that it communicates I'm interested in what you're saying. I'm curious in what you're saying. I want to understand your experience. And all of my interruptions are in the service of understanding what you're saying.
Not to combat.
No, I call this specifically, I'm talking in parallel with you rather than perpendicularly to you.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm talking with you. And your partner at home has been talking against you in a way.
Hmm.
You're trying to say this and they want to say that.
Okay.
That's the interruption that feels offensive.
They're trying to
And
squash what you're
yeah,
saying, and
right.
you're trying to draw out what they're saying.
And so the listening skill that I think we can take from this is there's a way to talk with people that communicates, I want to understand more of what you're saying. And then eventually in the conversation, you can go, okay, okay. And so you slow down and you pause, and then you shift to, here's what I think about that, or now here's what I think we should do, or let's move in this direction now.
Yeah. So we kind of start talking about like the balance of communication, listening versus actually speaking and using words.
Yeah.
And we just spent quite a lot of time talking about the listening side, the understanding side, the curious side of communication.
We might have over explained.
Well, I was going to say we might have over explained, but I think that maybe there's a good reason for it, that like you can't be an effective communicator if you don't understand the people you're communicating to.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to influence outcomes and I don't understand the people whom I'm trying to influence, I don't know how to motivate them.
Yeah.
So me understanding what makes them tick, understanding what's on their mind, understanding what's keeping them possibly from being productive and effective, I can't effectively lead them. I can't effectively communicate to them if I haven't taken the time to listen and understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I guess when we hear the word communicating, some people hear talking,
yeah,
and that's just a portion of it.
yeah. So the other side is actually sharing a message, right? So now, like, I understand. Now I need and even you talked about this about, okay, you listened, you slow down, you're crafting a response, right? To move towards some action, right? So now I have to use maybe words, or now maybe I'm playing a more active role a less passive role in listening, although I know there's active listening, but less passive role and a more active role in actually getting a message across,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Sometimes you want to use softer words and sometimes you want to use stronger, harder words. It depends what
Yeah.
you're trying to communicate. Or oration is a skill that most people can get better at.
Yeah.
Learning to speak well is a skill that we don't have time to really get into the granular details right now of. But what I often encourage people to do is record themselves.
Yeah.
And not only record yourself, but write out what you say from the recording. Make yourself a transcript and note every time that you end your sentence in a question. Note every time you use or
Hmm.
um, underline words and think about synonyms that you could replace that word with. Think about other ways to say that same thing and just really start becoming more familiar with how you speak. And then you can know if you want to dial it up, dial it back, change something, improve something, change something. But um, I think
Now every
speaking,
time you say or I'm like making note.
me too.
Okay.
Yeah, speaking is a lifelong skill, and I don't know if that's exactly what we're talking about today with communicating, but
Yeah.
um, being aware of the person that you're speaking to, the situation that you're speaking in, and having different messaging style, communication style for different settings is certainly appropriate.
I will say though, one thing that seems to stand the test of time, that seems to cut across all types of relationships that we're trying to communicate something to is stories.
Yeah.
Stories just seem timeless in their ability to 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 communicate clear messages, right? First, I think the human mind, we're inclined to story. Two, we can learn a lot from stories. We can learn a lot from experiences, and oftentimes the stories we tell are experiences, right? But it's
Yeah.
important to again go back to listening. What are the? How do we tell these stories?
Yeah.
What stories do we tell?
Right. Stories connect us. Um, Stories are metaphorical often. They allow us to apply our own conclusions, our own meanings, our own projections onto them. So they're really great tools. My dad is and was a gifted storyteller. He still tells stories. Um, but I know he was also a teacher, and I noticed that he used storytelling in teaching a lot.
Hmm.
It's a way to communicate complex messages. But even just the short story, the gentle, I mean, not gentle, the short anecdote can be really effective in communicating.
Yeah. Interesting. And um, yeah, as we get close to wrapping this up, I think what my takeaway here is, and I said this already, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's so important, is the ability to communicate is contingent upon your ability to have understood or to understand and to continue understanding the people you're communicating to,
Yeah.
right? And most of us are leading small organizations. We're leading our family. We're able to we're in positions where we can be a little bit more intimate with people in our circle. We can take the time to understand them, and when we understand them, we can be better. We communicate more clearly. We communicate better, but it starts with understanding them.
Right.
I might have done a terrible job communicating that concept or that idea, but knowing others seems to be key and fundamental in communicating to them.
Yeah. Know your audience is critical. I had this week. I had to communicate something difficult to somebody, and I first thought about the method. I thought, should I text them? Should I call them? Should I schedule coffee with them? Or should I send an email to them? I ended up going with an email, and I wanted to keep it really short and really direct, but I wanted to think about how they would read it
Mm,
and how it would feel to get this email.
it's good.
And so I really wanted to write it with a level of directness, but empathy at the same time, humility at the same time.
Yeah.
I think this happened. If so, let's not do that. If not, my apologies. Something that communicated directly, but also had a human, empathic, humble element to it.
Yeah. We're this idea of knowing your audience, we're often asked to come talk about retirement planning. Like, hey, could you come talk to our company about retirement? And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. who am I talking to? Like, are we
Yeah.
talking to like 65-year-olds? Or are we talking to 22-year-olds?
Yeah.
And like, well, you got some young people and some old people. I'm like, I don't like. I'm talking to too many different people on a topic. Like, I don't like. That's too hard. Like,
Different conversation.
it's a totally different. It's a totally different communication style. Totally different stories in some cases. Totally different tactics. Totally different strategies. So that's a really important thing to understand who you're communicating to.
You know what, Eric? When I have a chance to hear you speak out in public, I always look forward to it because you are a good communicator.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You're good at it. You've worked hard at it, and you have natural abilities and gifts with it. But you've also you work at it. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you.
You're welcome. Leadership isn't just about having great ideas. It's also about the ability to express those ideas, to inspire others,
Yeah.
and to motivate groups of people toward a common goal. When you get better at that, you amplify your impact as a leader. And so I think next we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence.
Ooh.
We've hit on before already, but no matter how smart or skilled you are, if you can't navigate relationships, your long term success will be affected. See
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah, I'll see you there. But if you want some questions, some thoughtful questions to kind of work through this idea of communicating and how you are as a communicator, wherever you're listening or watching this, you'll find a link to a PDF or um, it might be a PDF. It might not be a PDF, but you'll find a list of some questions to have some further thoughtfulness on this. Hey, thanks for joining us um, on this journey as we talk about the importance of growing as high performers, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, and how important it is to be in relationships and coaching relationships or accountable relationships that are going to draw these skills out and cultivate these skills so that you can be uh, I hate to say the better version of you. That seems, but that you can be who you are setting out to be.